The name Ray Epps is on everybody's mind as we draw closer into the review of what happened on January 6th, coming from both sides. So we'll talk just a bit about what it is that Congress and the FBI want you to know about what they found out about themselves. In other news, the filibuster conundrum continues, and the attacks continue as well on Manchin and Sinema, as Kamala Harris tries to tell the world that they have a majority that they don't have. So we'll talk just a bit about what's going on with that. Joe Biden gives a speech about voting rights, and Stacey Abrams, for whatever reason, cannot attend. And it caught the attention of some very high-profile people. So we'll talk just a bit about that. And Veritas, one of their outlets on Twitter, got suspended immediately after the video that we watched yesterday during Twitter trending. So, well, now we get to talk about that and some of the other stories that came along with that. It is going to be all this and more over on Contemporary. You're just mad you can't date me. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, Edheads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. Welcome to day 3 of my quarantine. I'm telling you, is it day 4? I don't know. The days are running together here. I'm getting stir crazy here, guys. I am. Although I took some time and took a nap throughout the day yesterday, too, because I've been sleeping real well at night, and I do feel a lot better after that as well. But, you know, CDC, 10 days. Better stay in. Better not do anything. Well, at least I can do stuff for this job, even if I can't go to the other one. So, anyway, we got to get down to the news. We got to get started to it and everything else, and go over this this whole thing going on with Ray Epps. Full disclosure, I'm going to be working a little bit quicker to make sure that this one gets over to the BitChute side as quickly as possible, and I don't normally do that because, you know, with the scheduling and everything else is out there, but I'm going to tell you right now that there is a very, very, very good chance that this video gets taken down in processing because of Ray Epps. It's a small channel. I might miss it. I might miss the mark off of it, but there's a good chance that this video gets taken down. There's probably a better than 50% chance that I get popped for this one here. We're just going over what the news says about this too, and using green check verified sources, and then, you know, telling you what I think about what's going on in the green check verified sources. There's a good chance that we see something like that there, so do make sure you guys go check out the backup platforms here. BitChute and the audio platforms, plus I think it might be time to go Rumble and Odyssey as well. By the way, this will be on Odyssey as well, so you can go check that out over there. And check out all the other places we can go check out videos and see everything else that's over there. But we have got to get into it here. We've actually got a full show today. We haven't had that for quite a while. It's been kind of slow for the, well, I wouldn't say quite a while, but for the past few days it's been a little bit slow coming off here. But we got a nice big stack of news up here on the top to go over here on Contemporary. But before we get started, do make sure you guys go check out TurnsOfPagesProductions.com. Turns of Pages Productions is going to be your one-stop shop for all of your news and commentary needs. Once we get up launched, we will have great shows such as the Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The Already Conservative, the new upcoming project with Britt Salt and Sean Hickman, so go check that out. And also check out the Porch Boys, who had a great show last night. And I don't know if their guest really appreciated them as much as maybe he should have there, because he kind of dipped out towards the end there without a word. And yeah, I'm thinking they tried talking over him too much a little bit off of that. But, you know, they're still learning how this goes. So we'll continue to watch them. We'll continue to go with that, and we'll see how that goes. But still go and check them out. They are great friends to Liberty. They're great friends to the program as well. So go and check them out. They're great people. And I love all the people who are going to be on this network, including the new upcoming show that's going to be added at launch. So go and check all of those out over on TurnsOfPagesProductions.com. New fundraiser coming soon. let's have a look at your finance for the morning here. The Dow turned upwards towards the end of the day yesterday. It started off in a big dip, dropping back down below 36,000 temporarily, and then rising back up to 36,252.02. That is 183.15 points up, or a 0.5% up, after being just about that many, well, probably more, yeah, more than that many points back down. So quite the turnaround for the Dow. We'll see what happens with that. I know a lot of this is hinging on what Jerome Powell had to say, but you know what? I don't trust him, and I don't trust his weight on the markets either. So we'll see what happens with that and see where that goes. Looking at your Bitcoin, let's get a refresh on that. Your Bitcoin went up overnight to $43,403 and 30 US cents per coin. That is up $650 and 60 cents, or 1.52% per coin over the last 24 hours. So we're starting to see some rise coming back up off that as well on your Bitcoin. And remember, if that's the way that you want to go back and dabble into the crypto markets, it's not my favorite, but I know like our friends like Ron Helton love the Bitcoin and love everything that goes around with that. And hey, if you have to hold it or mold it, you should have already sold it, right, Ron? But that's what we're seeing coming off of that. Looking at things that you can actually hold and mold, all just aside, of course. Looking at your scrap metal prices, copper is up, steel is down, and aluminum is up. After a nice big turn on copper too, by the way, because that was all plays were down yesterday. But now it looks like bare, bright copper wire is up. Copper tubing is up. Flashing copper is up. Number 2 tubing is up. Insulated wire is up. THHN wire is up. But Romex is down. Brass is down. Brass shells are up. On your steel plays, conduit steel is down, light iron is down, number 1 is down. All your steel plays are down right now, it looks like. Yes, they all are. On aluminum markets are mixed, with siding is up, aluminum copper pin is down, radiators are down, cans are down, sheet aluminum is down, rims are up. Looking at your other plays, electric motors dealing in copper are up, ballasts are down, lead is down, batteries are down. Your catalytic converter market is mixed, with small foreign cat, large foreign cat, and large GM cat, all 3 up, while regular domestic cat and small GM cat are both down. Compressors are up, alternators are up, carbide, hard drives, motherboards, power supplies, low-grade boards, and PC towers are all on the upswing. So that's what we're seeing coming up out of your hard markets. As far as things go, we should see. I don't know if gold is on the scrap or not. That's one thing I should definitely look for. I know we can come back and look and see, and there are other aluminum plays too that we don't look at either. We just look at the basic stuff that you'll pick up around your house. But that's one thing I do want to look at too, and just see if, because I stop at computer tower stuff. I stop at computer stuff. But there's so much more that's on the, there's a lot of information on the iScrap app here. So it is a matter of what it is that you're definitely looking for here. Yeah, we do have scrap gold here too, so that would be an interesting one to look at and see where that goes as well. But let's take off from that here. Let's look in at IBD for the day. Dow Jones Futures, market rallies on Powell comments, but inflation data due. Biogen dives. Yeah, but the inflation data is going to play hell on the markets, unfortunately. From Ed Carson, Dow Futures edged higher Wednesday morning, along with S&P 500 Futures and NASDAQ Futures, ahead of a key inflation report. Biogen dove as Medicare. I don't know why they say dive. The word is dove. Biogen dove as Medicare restricted coverage of its Alzheimer's drug. The stock market rally extended a rebound Tuesday, and crude oil prices jumped as Fed Chief Jerome Powell eased fears that the central bank will be overly aggressive in reducing its massive balance sheet. AMD and Nvidia stock rallied, and investors could see the makings of a double bottom base. I don't know why I just lost my place there. But trying to guess the double bottom on stock is fraught with peril. Tesla has a new buy point, while Apple is rebounding bullishly from a key level. Meanwhile, Zim integrated shipping broke out. The Zim, not Vim, those of you who haven't been following along with my Fallout 4 journey, don't know my love for Vim Cola. Tesla and Nvidia are on the IBD leaderboard. Tesla and Zim are on the IBD 50. Zim integrated shipping was Tuesday's IBD stock of the day. Meanwhile, Medicare will limit coverage on the pricey and controversial Biogen Alzheimer's drug. It'll only pay for Aduhelm for Medicare patients in clinical trials. Biogen stock plunged. Eli Lilly, which is working on a similar Alzheimer's drug, fell modestly. Jerome Powell testified Tuesday at a Senate banking confirmation hearing for a second term. He assured lawmakers that the Federal Reserve will bring inflation under control. Powell said that the need for aggressive monetary stimulus is over, adding that the Federal Reserve may see some balance sheet runoff in 2022 after asset purchases go to zero mid-March. That appeared less hawkish than at least some of his colleagues, as revealed in last week's release of Fed Minutes. Several policymakers at the December meeting spoke in favor of cutting the balance sheet soon after the first Fed rate hike, which could happen as early as March. Some also suggested they wanted to pare back the balance sheet aggressively. The Labor Department's December Consumer Price Index is due out at 8:30 a.m., so 9 minutes ago. On Wednesday, economists expect the CPI to show a 0.4% gain, or 0.5% excluding food and energy. Overall consumer inflation is rising to a fresh long-term high of 7.1%. From November's 6.8%, core inflation is forecast to hit 5.5%, up from 4.9%, and you don't see this as a problem. On Thursday, the Labor Department will release the Producer Price Index. On your futures, Dow futures rose 0.1% versus fair value, S&P 500 futures gained 0.1%, and NASDAQ 100 futures climbed 0.2%. The 10-year Treasury yield was roughly flat at 1.75%. Crude oil prices rose slightly. The CPI inflation report will be sure to swing Dow Jones futures and Treasury yields, and remember, overnight action in Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. So we'll see what happens, and we'll catch up with this tomorrow. Let's grab one briefly from Yahoo Finance. Stock market news, live update. Stocks rebound as NASDAQ powers on for second straight day, and Dow gains 180 points. From Alexandria Semenova. Wall Street's main indices closed in the green on Tuesday after staging a comeback from earlier losses as investors weighed the testimony from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. The NASDAQ rallied for the second consecutive session to close 1.4% higher at 15,153.45. While the Dow jumped 180 points, the S&P 500 also clawed back from a morning drop to close in positive territory. Jerome Powell told Congress in his confirmation testimony on Tuesday that if the pace of price increases fails to slow, the central bank will get more aggressive with raising short-term borrowing costs. If we see inflation persisting at high levels longer than expected, if we have to raise interest rates more over time, then we will, Powell said at a hearing before the Senate Banking Committee. Investors in the equity markets are assuming that inflation comes down to at least a low enough level not to bother stocks that much, ProShares global investment strategist Simeon Hyman told Yahoo Finance Live. But the Fed's activity you need to split into two pieces. Before we get to rate hikes, you have to talk about the tapering and the new news of the last 10 days, an accelerated unwind of the balance sheet, he added, indicating that this could determine longer-term rates to rise regardless of whether inflation comes down and independent of the Fed's speed on raising rates. Ultimately, these actions might mean that there don't have to be too many rate hikes, Hyman said. The central bank's monetary policy will remain in focus this week, with the Bureau of Labor Statistics' latest consumer price index in the spotlight, as investors continue to gauge inflationary pressures and the Fed's potential response. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll probably be talking about the inflation market tomorrow. We're looking at some of the other things that went along with that, the futures and where they stood as we went, plus crude oil and gold, which is just barely breaking even right now. But that's what we see coming off the news here. Let's get into the big news of the day. And before we get into anything, we've got a couple of instances of Biden behaving badly. Before we get into the heavy stuff, let's just look at Biden behaving badly. Because that's my favorite thing. First and foremost, from the Daily Wire, Biden calls Kamala President Harris again. On Tuesday, President Biden addressed a crowd in Atlanta regarding the Democrat Party's push for two federal bills supposedly about protecting voting rights, but he made an unforced error while reading the teleprompter. Let's listen.
Last week, President Harris and I stood in the United States Capitol. Last week, President Harris and I stood in the United States Capitol.
Who was that stood in the United States Capitol with you? Was that President Harris, you said? I don't recall there being a President Harris in recent memory. I believe there was a President Harris at one point. Let me double check that. No, there was a Harrison, but not a Harris. William Henry Harrison, the 9th president. That's who I was thinking of. So yes, there has been a President Harrison, but not a President Harris. But last week, the supposed President of the United States supposedly stood in the White House with this fictitious President Harris. But in case you were wondering for more of that, here's more Biden behaving badly. Biden says, "This looks stupid," as he removes his face mask while speaking to reporters outside the White House. A rare moment of clarity from an Alzheimer's patient. From Dave Urbanski. Did we get a glimpse of how President Joe Biden truly may feel about wearing the face mask, particularly while outside? Let's watch.
I've been able to do, as I'm able to, this looks stupid, I've been able to generate significant federal help. I've been able to do, as I'm able, this looks stupid, I've been able to generate...
You're right, President Biden. This looks stupid. You are correct on that. This definitely does look stupid. Glad of you to point that out. Glad of you to notice that. This does look stupid.
I've been able to do, as I'm able, this looks stupid, I've been able to...
this looks stupid. Hey, now I'm a super spreader. Now I'm standing in front of reporters and super spreading. Look at me. So there we go. A little bit of Biden behaving badly. There's your true BBB right there. Biden behaving badly. Even better than build back bullshit. Alright, we have got to start by talking about Mr. Raymond Epps, and we're going to start today with CNN. Man accused by January 6 truthers of being FBI infiltrator denies claim in an interview with House Select Committee. So good news, the government investigated itself and found they did nothing wrong. This is from Marshall Cohen and Ryan Nobles. The Arizona man that some right-wing figures baselessly claim was part of a secret FBI plot to orchestrate the January 6th Selfie Fest told the House panel investigating the attack that he has no ties to the FBI or law enforcement, a committee aide told CNN. What's the first rule of Fight Club, folks? And by the way, I've never seen that movie either. But what's the first rule of Fight Club? Even me, who's never seen that movie, knows what the first rule there is, and it's the same first rule of being an FBI informant. It's the exact same rule. Don't talk about Fight Club. The aide provided details about the man, Raymond Epps, and his cooperation with the panel after his name came up at a Senate hearing on Tuesday. Two GOP senators referred to Epps while questioning the top FBI official about whether FBI agents infiltrated or incited the pro-Trump mob. The Select Committee has interviewed Mr. Epps, a spokesperson for the committee told CNN in a statement on Tuesday after the hearing. Mr. Epps informed us that he was not employed by, working with, or acting at the direction of any law enforcement agency on January 5th or 6th or at any other time, and that he's never been an informant for the FBI and other law enforcement agency. While Epps' denial is unlikely to sway die-hard conspiracy theorists, it carries some heft because it came at an interview with congressional investigators where lying would be a federal crime. Hey, why does this sound familiar, by the way? Well, Mr. Kavanaugh's denial of what happened in 1982 may not sway some of the hard and leftoid voters on the Senate Judiciary Committee. It came in an interview with congressional investigators where lying would be a federal crime. Why does this sound so fucking familiar? And bigger question is why, well, I know why. I know why this is different set of rules for different things. Republican lawmakers and pro-Trump outlets have zeroed in on Epps to bolster their broader conspiracy theory that the FBI was responsible for the violence of January 6th. Their claims about Epps have been panned by fact-checkers. Good news! We investigated ourselves and found that we did nothing wrong. Epps hasn't spoken out about the situation. The Justice Department and FBI haven't commented. The theory about Epps is based on circumstantial speculation and little, if any, concrete evidence that hasn't stopped Fox personalities and GOP lawmakers from pushing the idea that Epps was a central player in the FBI's supposed false flag operation. I don't think he was a central player. I'm not a Fox News talking head or a GOP lawmaker either, but I don't think he was a central player. I think he was a player, but I don't think he was the center of it. He's just the one that was stupid enough to get caught on fucking camera. Plain and simple. The central? No, the central one, it wasn't. The central person wasn't stupid enough to get caught on camera. Epps is a fall guy. But he's been granted immunity in his fall guy status. Or so I believe off of this. He was the fall guy. The real person who was organizing this, even if that person was on the ground, knew well enough to be in a mask and another crisp MAGA hat and not be seen by anybody, not be recorded by anybody, or find a way to get the videos taken down from your favorite social media site by having Taylor Swift songs in the background. By the way, and I don't even know who the original artist was for this song either, by the way, but when Steven sang it was probably one of the first times I'd ever heard the song. Steven Ignoramus's cover of Valerie got me popped by the original artist. On my stream of his show over at what the hell was the name of that place that we went to in Georgia? Well, yeah, when I recorded and streamed out his open mic performance, I got popped for that song. None of the other songs on the on his list got me, but that song fucking got me popped. It was just to demonetize, so I mean, it's not like a hard strike or anything, but still, come on. It was a completely original composition. And they still got me for it. Promoters of the claim focused on several videos of Epps encouraging people to attack the Capitol. They also point out that this photo was on an early FBI most wanted list, but was later removed. Because he hasn't been arrested, the theory goes that he must be working for the FBI. In one of the videos, which was filmed in Washington on January 5th, Epps told a group of Trump supporters that, "Tomorrow, we need to go into the Capitol." This drew some positive responses from the crowd, but also some jeers. Some people started to accuse Epps of being a Fed. While authorities haven't commented, there's a plausible explanation for why Epps hasn't been charged with a crime. Well, he was probably promised immunity. Nearly all of the 700 plus defendants charged in connection with the Selfie Fest either stepped inside the Capitol building or are accused of assaulting police on Capitol grounds. To date, no evidence has emerged that the person who just happens to be so proud of getting everybody in the Capitol didn't go into the Capitol. There's no evidence that he ever entered the Capitol on January 6th or that he tussled with the police. Weird! It's almost like he got a warning, like he wanted everybody else to go do it, but he didn't want to do it. But of course, once again, the FBI has investigated themselves and found that they did nothing wrong. It is unclear why Epps' photo was removed from the FBI poster of potential January 6 suspects. So that's what we see coming off of that. There's a lot of stuff going on with this here, and really, honestly, I'm gonna go back to what I said before. You know, like I say, they're trying to come out, and the mainstream media does this stupid fucking wordplay all the time. I can't believe I'm saying this on YouTube either, and not getting shut down. I'm waiting for that day of the fucking axe to come. But when I look at something, like I said, I don't believe for a second that this was the primary instigator, the primary organizer of anything off of this. The primary organizer was was smart enough not to get caught on camera, of course. But they also expect me to believe that the government would never do something like this, as they have been caught. The FBI themselves, the agency itself, not Michigan State Police, not local police for Lansing, but the FBI themselves got caught trying to entrap a Wolverine militia for the kidnapping of Gretchen Whitmer. It's not like they've never been caught doing something like this. Is there anyone on YouTube this morning? Asked Ron Helton. I don't even know if I'm still on YouTube at this point. I've said too much stuff that's been detrimental to Ray Epps. Susan's probably sitting over there personally with her finger over the ban button. Come on, just say that one. Go over the line just a little bit more. I'm gonna get you. I'm gonna get you. But I haven't seen any of the spammers either, so maybe I am kicked off YouTube. No, according to this, I'm still there. Oh well, let's keep going. So, a little bit more on this here, coming from Fox. Top FBI official dodges when Cruz asked if agents participated in January 6th Selfie Fest. From Ron Blitzer. Senator Ted Cruz, R. Texas, grilled a senior FBI official on whether or not FBI agents or confidential informants played a role in the Capitol protests on January 6, 2001. That's a typo. That's either a typo or Freudian slip. 2001. Are we talking about September 11th here? But she would not confirm nor deny anything. At a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing titled The Domestic Terrorism Threat, 1 year after January 6th. Now, according to this, that's 21 years after January 6th. According to Fox News' information, at least. Cruz asked Jill Sanborn, Executive Assistant Director for FBI's National Security Branch, about suspicions held by some that government officials encouraged lawless behavior during the protests. Thank you to our friend Arvolt over in the chat. I've got a full video of this here, and we're gonna, because Steven's coming on late today, and I'm clawing the walls here because I don't have to go to work, we're gonna watch this whole fucking video. We're just gonna sit down and watch the whole thing. Because we can do stuff like that today. We can't always do stuff like this, but we can do stuff like this today. So, the FBI has refused to answer a congressman about the one person who was on camera actually inciting violence in the Capitol on January 6th. But mysteriously never going into the Capitol himself. Weird. Let's listen to what that sounded like.
I will, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal. Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Olson, how many people have been charged with crimes of violence in connection with the events on January 6th?
Senator, I'm not sure exactly how many have been charged with crimes of violence. I know that there are many.
Okay, how many have been charged with nonviolent crimes?
I don't have the numbers of people charged, whether at the state or federal level. I know that
Okay, how many people are currently incarcerated concerning the events of January 6th?
I don't know the number of people incarcerated. Again, I know that
how many? Okay, let me ask you that. Look, with limited time, so I don't want you to filibuster. You either know the answer or you don't. How many people have been placed in solitary confinement concerning the events of January 6th?
I don't have any information about that, Senator.
You know, Mr. Olson, I will say it was sad. Senator Lee just asked you about this. Back in June of 2021, Senator Lee and I and two other senators sent a letter to the Department of Justice asking these questions, asking about the differential prosecutions. Let me ask you, during 2020, Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots all across the country, there were over 700 police officers injured by Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots. How many people have been charged with crimes of violence concerning those riots all across the country?
I don't have information on how many. I would say, hundreds of people have been charged, as Ms. Sanborn.
You would say, but you don't know. You know, When we asked you why the Biden Department of Justice has such wildly disparate standards, going after January 6th, targeting some people who committed crimes of violence, and anyone who commits a crimes of violence should be prosecuted, but also targeting a lot of nonviolent individuals. We asked you, why is it that you won't target the rioters and terrorists who firebomb cities across this country? The answer we got from the Department of Justice was shameful. On October 22nd, you came back and said, quote, "The department has dedicated investigative and prosecutorial resources commensurate with the significance of these events." By significance, I guess it means the political benefit to the Biden White House. And I will tell you, there are a great many Americans who are understandably deeply concerned about the politicization of the Department of Justice under President Joe Biden. It has been 218 days since we sent you that letter. DOJ refused to answer the letter. Today, when Senator Lee and I asked you about it, your answer to every damn question is, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. You're under oath. You may believe at the Department of Justice that you are unaccountable to the American people, but that is not the case. And the wildly disparate standards are unacceptable. Ms. Sandberg, I want to turn to the FBI. How many FBI agents or confidential informants actively participated in the events of January 6th?
Sir, I'm sure you can appreciate that I can't go into the specifics of sources and methods.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants actively participate in the events of January 6th? Yes or no?
Sir, I can't answer that.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants commit crimes of violence on January 6th?
I can't answer that, sir.
Did any FBI agents or FBI informants actively encourage and incite crimes of violence on January 6th?
Sir, I can't answer that.
Ms. Sadburn, who is Ray Epps?
I'm aware of the individual, sir. I don't have the specific background to him.
Well, there are a lot of people who are understandably very concerned about Mr. Epps. On the night of January 5th, 2021, Epps wandered around the crowd that had gathered. And there's video out there of him chanting, "Tomorrow, we need to get into the Capitol, into the Capitol."
Yeah, I talked about Boomer Tech while I was on the air, and I just did Boomer Tech right there and forgot to put the mic on. So, and that's one thing, too, that I pointed out, too. All these people who are just out there who are absolutely, you know, they have the government contracts. They can get the contractors. They can do technology better than this. Still have the boomer bleed over on the microphone with these people. You can hear Ted Cruz bleeding over Miss Sanborn's mic.
This was strange behavior, so strange that the crowd began chanting, "Fed, Fed, 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 Fed." Ms. Sanborn, was Ray Epps a Fed?
Sir, I cannot answer that question.
The next day, on January 6th, Mr. Epps is seen whispering to a person, and 5 seconds later, 5 seconds after he's whispering to a person, that same person begins to forcibly tear down the barricades. Did Mr. Epps urge them to tear down the barricades?
Sir, similar to the other answers, I cannot answer that.
Shortly thereafter, the FBI put out a public post seeking information on individuals connected with violent crimes on January 6th. Among those individuals, in the bottom there, is Mr. Epps. The FBI publicly asked for information, identifying, offering cash rewards leading to information leading to the arrest. This was posted, and then, sometime later, magically, Mr. Epps disappeared from the public posting. According to public records, Mr. Epps has not been charged with anything. No one's explained why a person videoed urging people to go to the Capitol, a person whose conduct was so suspect the crowd believed he was a Fed, would magically disappear from the list of people the FBI was looking at. Ms. Sandburn, a lot of Americans are concerned that the federal government deliberately encouraged illegal and violent conduct on January 6th. My question to you, and this is not an ordinary law enforcement question, this is a question of public accountability. Did federal agents or those in service of federal agent actively encourage violent and criminal conduct on January 6th?
Not to my knowledge, sir.
Thank you.
Senator Leahy?
Thank you, Mr.
And everything about that, too, was just so filibustered out to the side. Like, you know, even the way that she ended out there, too, because, she can't be held to perjury for any of that statement. Especially, isn't she somewhat new-ish, too? I don't know how that goes and what off of that, but, you know, I can't answer that question. I can't answer that question. I can't answer that question. Under oath. And there are carve-outs for that, too, as far as the service goes, and for federal government as well. There's executive privilege, and the FBI is a subsect of the Department of Justice, so it's governed by the executive branch, and it is governed by executive privilege, and in being governed by executive privilege, they can hold, if there is some sort of psyop, sting, or something else classified that could get somebody killed, they don't have to answer that. No matter who's under oath, who's got them under oath, they don't have to answer any of these questions because under the same thing for any kind of classification, it could get people killed. But that's quite the clip that came off of this too. Jesse Kelly replies to, he tweeted this out. This isn't a reply to this. This is a separate tweet. Says, Epps is on video multiple times encouraging Trump supporters to breach the Capitol. He's not under arrest and hasn't been charged with anything because he's an FBI informant who was tasked by the FBI to get people to break the law so that the FBI could attack Republicans. It's possible. Like I say, if we hadn't been caught with the Wolverine militia, I can't remember what their name was, but the Wolverine militia, if they hadn't been caught with their pants down about that, I might not be so apt to believe that Epps could have been an FBI, that he could be so easily exposed, at least. I thought they had more credibility than that and more ability to cover their own tracks than that, to be completely honest. But since that got exposed, now I'm open to believe anything at this point, especially when it surrounds that, because a lot of what happened there was awfully convenient to get a lot of people felony charges so they couldn't vote the next time around. Yeah, I saw your joke on 4chan, Randy. And yeah, they probably do have a full workup on him. In fact, I know they do because I've read some of it. What else do we have here? Oh, we got to refresh the NBC. Please turn off your ad blocker. No. There we go. January 6th committee dismisses Ray Epps conspiracy theory, issues new subpoenas. From Alan Smith, Ali Vitali, and Hallie Talbot. The House Committee investigating the attack on the U.S. Capitol sought to dismiss the right-wing conspiracy theory by announcing Tuesday that Ray Epps, who was seen trying to egg on protesters ahead of the January 6th Selfie Fest, told the committee members in an interview that he was not a federal agent. Just trust us, bro. The panel also subpoenaed a trio of Trump allies as it continues its months-long investigation into the origins of the attack. Epps has been the focus of far-right allegations that, instead of being a Trump supporter, he was working with the federal government. No, it's totally fine that he had a completely crisp, clean MAGA hat that totally wasn't in the package the day before. And those crisp, clean lines on his Trump 2020 flag, no, those are just the style. Those crisp, clean lines are a style. The panel also subpoenaed a trio of Trump allies as a continued months-long investigation. Let's see. He was working with the federal government seeking to provoke violence. The Select Committee is aware of unsupported claims that Ray Epps was an FBI informant based on the fact that he was on the FBI wanted list and then was removed from the list without being charged, the committee said in a statement. Mr. Epps informed us that he was not employed by, working with, or acting at the direction of any law enforcement agency on January 5th or 6th, or at any other time, and that he's never been an informant for the FBI or any other law enforcement agency. Epps was seen on video the night of January 5th asking other people to go into the Capitol the next day before others began chanting "Fed, Fed, Fed" at him in video. From January 6th, Epps shouted to those nearby, "Okay folks, spread the word. As soon as the president is done speaking, we go to the Capitol. The Capitol is this direction." PolitiFact reported. The video has garnered significant attention among some conservatives. In October, Thomas Massie played it during a congressional hearing and asked Merrick Garland whether federal agents incited the violence at the Capitol. Ted Cruz asked similar questions Tuesday of Jill Sanborn, a top FBI national security official, at a Judiciary Committee hearing on domestic terrorist threats. Asked whether federal agents or people working with federal law enforcement actively encourage violence, Sanborn said, "Not to my knowledge." That was a lawyer answer too. Beyond Capitol Hill, the Epps conspiracy was featured on One American News and in Fox News host Tucker Carlson's Patriot Purge, and mentions of it have soared online in recent weeks. Who is Ray Epps? Representative Madison Cawthorn tweeted on the anniversary of the attack. Arizona GOP State Senator Wendy Rogers posted on January 5th, "Ray Epps, Ray Epps, Ray Epps." In a lengthy tweet thread, Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, one of two Republicans on the January 6th committee, wrote that Epps didn't enter the Capitol on January 6th. We're actually going to move that one up here because that was just mentioned here, so we'll read that thread in just a second. In fact, let's do that now. Because, of course, we have more incidences of people investigating themselves and finding they did nothing wrong. So let's listen. Let's see what Adam Kinzinger had to say. This is a thread. Ray Epps thread. "I know this will break some hearts. For a few months, people like Tucker Carlson, MTG, Gates, and now Cruz have been just asking questions about a man named Ray Epps. He was on video the day before, January 6th, saying, 'We're going into the Capitol.' The some in the crowd chanted, 'Fed, Fed, Fed.' Why? Who knows? Maybe they knew he was being video talking about breaking into the Capitol the day before it was to happen and wanted to create distance." Yeah, and we're the conspiracy theorists, Kinzinger. And did you just see that get botted too, by the way? Oh, we went mysteriously right up from 4.9 thousand likes to 5.1 thousand likes in a second. 3. Regardless, he was put on the FBI wanted list, then removed. Because of all that, conspiracy was that he was an FBI agent has been gospel on the blogs and shows. Side note, this is why we have to address conspiracies and not ignore them. 4. He didn't enter the Capitol on January 6th and was removed from the most wanted list because he apparently broke no laws. I'm pretty sure inciting other people to go break a law and then walking away is breaking a law, Adam Kinzinger. I'm no lawyer or congressperson, but I'm pretty sure that's against the law. Ray Epps has cooperated with the January 6th committee, and we thanked him. On the broader issue, let's say Ray was an agent. He is not! The premise is that one agent can gin up a crowd into an insurrection. That isn't saying much about the intelligence of your voters, is it, Ted? The rioters had formal education, owned businesses, etc. They knew an FBI informant is someone that is paid by or turned by law enforcement as they build broader cases. Informants are usually criminals that turn to save their own butt. An informant is not an agent, but Ted wants you to think Ray is no informant either. The narrative on January 6th has been that it's first Antifa or patriots who love their country, maybe crisis actors, definitely false flag operatives, or now FBI agents. Take your pick. Truth is, they were rioters incited by lies, and Ray is no Fed, just another misled man. While it may break hearts, it's true. So many are misled by so few. Just look up. And what I have to say to this is no matter how much you suck that big, veiny, blue donkey dick, Adam Kinzinger, they're not going to bring your district back. You're still not going to be employed come November. And this is the one that I took the most issue with. Like, I know a lot of people took the most issue with this one, or maybe the second one. This is the one that I took the issue with, especially the way that he talked down to people that he's wanting to vote for him again. Coming up off of this, because he's going to want what little bit of populist vote exists in whichever district he decides to run in adjacent to his district, because he is going to run again. I know he is. Even if his district is removed and replaced by 2 solidly blue districts, which it has been, he's going to try to run again, and he's going to want those populist assholes to come back and vote for him. Or maybe he doesn't. But this one here, let's say Ray was an agent. He is not. The premise is that one agent can gin up a crowd to an insurrection. That isn't saying much about the intelligence of your voters, is it, Ted? Nobody believes for a second that he was the only one. I know that's what you want people to believe, Adam Kinzinger. But the people who do believe that Ray Epps was there and pushing people to go back into this, to go back and break into the Capitol, nobody is misguided as some of those people are, and some of them are completely misguided. Some of them are onto something, some of them are completely misguided. But even the most misguided of those people don't think that it was a one-man operation. Nobody believes that was a one-man operation. Not one single person believes that is a one-man operation. But keep sucking that big veiny donkey dick, Adam Kinzinger. Here's one from the January 6th Select Committee. We interviewed ourselves and found we did nothing wrong. The Select Committee is aware of unsupported claims that Ray Epps was an FBI informant, based on the fact that he was on the FBI wanted list and then was removed from that list without being charged. The committee has interviewed Epps, informed us that he was not employed by, working with, or acting at the direction of any law enforcement agency on January 5th or 6th or at any other time, and that he's never been an informant for the FBI or any other law enforcement agency. Good news. Good news! We investigated ourselves and found that we did nothing wrong. Totally unbiased, factcheck.org. A project of the Annenberg Public Policy Center. Totally unbiased. Conservative outlets advance unfounded theory about Capitol attack. Quick take. There is no evidence that unindicted co-conspirators mentioned in federal indictments related to January 6th Capitol attack are undercover FBI agents or informants, as conservative outlets have claimed or suggested. Legal experts and federal case law said the government agents and informants cannot be labeled as conspirators to a crime. I kept this on for a reason, because a lot of this is a repeat of the same thing, and like if we go through the full story, which is talking about the revolver news, which I told you at the time is not green check verified. So if you do want to go back and look at what revolver news says, do your own homework. Always. But this is the one that caught my attention. Government agents and informants cannot be labeled as conspirators to a crime. Think about how that's worded for just a second. Think just a second for how that's worded. Legal experts in federal case law say government agents and informants cannot be labeled as conspirators to a crime, which means they can come out here and do whatever it is that they want. Like the Wolverine militia, going back to that once again. None of those people, and that was 13 out of 20 people, were informants in that particular group. 13 out of 20. There were more informants than there were Michigan Patriots in that group. And none of those people can be charged as co-conspirators to the crime. That's kind of not the take that I think that you guys wanted to put out there. Let's grab one from the Associated Press as we move off to this, and this will be the last one off on this topic here, because it's not bad enough that we have all these federal agencies, like the FBI, who could totally never do something like this here. The Justice Department is getting ready to make a new three-letter agency. From the Associated Press, Justice Department creating unit focused on domestic terrorism. From Eric Tucker. You never thought, if you'd have told me in 1995 that the government would openly be turned against its own citizens, not covertly like Dale Ribble kind of stuff, but openly be turned against its own citizens and its own citizens would cheer it on, I would have told you you're out of your fucking mind, but here we are. The Justice Department is establishing a specialized unit focused on domestic terrorism. The department's top national security official told lawmakers Tuesday as he described elevated threat from violent extremists in the United States. Assistant AG Matthew Olson, testifying just days after the nation observed the one-year anniversary of the Capitol selfie fest, said the number of FBI investigations into suspected domestic violent extremists has more than doubled since the spring of 2020. We have seen a growing threat from those who are motivated by racial animus, as well as those who ascribe to extremist anti-government and anti-authority ideologies, Olson said. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I'm on one of those lists because I was going through the recommended stuff on Amazon one day. This was like a year ago. I think this was before the Selfie Fest, actually, if I remember correctly. But I was going through this, just the recommended stuff, and I'm like, oh, cool. Recommended books. I wonder what's in there. And the fourth book in there was the Anarchist Cookbook. And I'm like, yeah, I'm on a list. I've never read the Anarchist Cookbook. That's the weird part. Never really had a need to, for reasons I'm not going to say on the camera. But I've never read the Anarchist Cookbook, and I've had never really any desire to do so. But Amazon felt that I sure might want that book. Fed. The formulation of a new unit underscores the extent to which domestic violent extremism, which for years after the September 11th attacks was overshadowed by the threat of international terrorism, has attracted urgent attention inside the federal government and at the White House. Yeah, they're going to turn around and use the arms of the political machine to take down their political enemies. But the issue remains politically freighted and divisive, in part because the absence of a federal domestic terrorism statute has created ambiguities as to precisely what sort of violence meets that definition. The U.S. Criminal Code defines domestic terrorism as violence intended to coerce or intimidate a civilian population, like threatening to take away their jobs or fining their employers until they get fired for not getting a jab, and to influence government policy. But there's no standalone domestic terrorism charge, meaning persecutors have to rely on other statutes. Olson's assessment about growing domestic threats tracked with the warning last March from FBI Director Chris Wray, who testified that the threat was metastasizing. Jill Sanborn, the Executive Assistant Director in charge of the FBI's National Security Branch, who testified alongside Olson, said Tuesday the greatest threat comes from lone extremists or small cells who radicalize online with the assistance of your agency and look to carry out violence at so-called soft targets. See Wolverine Militia. This includes both homegrown violent extremists, inspired primarily by foreign terrorist organizations, as well as domestic violent extremism, Sanborn said. The Department of National Security Division, which Olson leads, has a counterterrorism section, but Olson told the Senate Judiciary Committee that he has decided to create a specialized domestic terrorism unit to augment our existing approach and to ensure that these cases are properly handled and effectively coordinated across the country. Look, there's something you need to know about what happens here and where this goes. Now, they've looked at this, and they've used the weasel words and the lawyer words again. We have seen a growing threat from those who are motivated by racial animus, because they've got to bring the ethnonats into it. They've always got to bring the ethnonats into it first, but what else is there? As well as those who ascribe to extremist anti-government and anti-authority ideologies, Olson said. You want to know what a big part of the reason I'm on that list is? It's right there. It's right there. That's the big part of the reason I'm on that list. But I also can, openly. I preserve food. I keep myself prepared in case of a natural emergency. I try to do everything I can to buy stuff as raw goods rather than prepared foods because that limits the ability of sales tax I have to, or not the ability, but that limits the amount of sales tax I have to pay based on my state sales tax code. And I prepare ahead of time for emergencies. Savings and food. The savings has been wary a little bit here because I'm trying to get some stuff paid off to get some property. But savings and food. Those are the big ones. Savings and food. If you start doing that kind of stuff, if you start stockpiling canned goods, if you start canning your own goods, you're on this list. It's not just coming out here with, I'm a libertarian and I don't think the January 6th people went far enough, as certain people, Reed Coverdale, have to say on Twitter all the time. What is anti-government ideology? I don't have to depend on the government. I don't have to go out and drive on your roads to go get my sustenance. I can keep enough of that in the house to keep me going for a couple months. And this is going to be it. They're turning the government against its own people. And it's being cheered on with thunderous applause. How does the line go? Let's see if we can play just the audio of this without getting popped by George fucking Lucas.
Continuing stability, the Republic will be reorganized into the first galactic empire for a safe and secure society.
So this is how liberty dies. With thunderous applause.
Yeah, we all know that line. It's scary how much truer and truer it's getting, too. So that's what we see coming off of that. Alright, but that's what we have on the Ray Epps side of the story here. Take from it what you will, of course. I'm not going to tell you what to think. I'm going to tell you what I think. And wonder if I'll get popped on YouTube by it. But we got to move on and talk about the filibuster. So, reading from Politico. Dems filibuster conundrum. It's not just Manchin and Sinema. This is written by Burgess Everett and Marianne Levine. A Democratic senator from Arizona is still not sold on changes to the filibuster, and it's not Kyrsten Sinema. Mark Kelly is not yet committed to a change in the Senate rules that would allow elections to reform legislation to pass by simple majority. A centrist who is up for re-election in November, Kelly said Monday that he's still undecided just days before he may have to vote on proposals to weaken the filibuster. I've never been part of an organization where it's really, really hard to do things, so if there's a real proposal, I'll take a look at it and evaluate it based on what's in the best interest of the country, Kelly said. He said he has yet to see what exactly he would vote on, and the proposals Democrats have discussed change almost weekly. Sinema and Manchin are the source of most liberal frustration these days, with both publicly rebuffing changes to the Senate 60-vote threshold. But it's not like Majority Leader Chuck U. Schumer starts pivotal week, focused on changes to the very fabric of the Senate with 48 ironclad votes for particular filibuster reform. Kelly is one of a handful of Democrats still weighing what to do about the party's drive to allow sweeping federal election legislation to evade the Senate's 60-vote threshold, and the range of views in the Democratic hesitance reflect the gravity of the debate. Already, Republicans are threatening to gum up the Senate if Democrats change the procedures of the institution, but nonetheless, longtime defenders of the filibuster may have to make some tough choices, particularly as Biden's economic agenda is stalled in Congress, and Democrats reckon with sky-high promises they made after taking back the majority last year. I mean, how is that different from any other election year? Whatever happened to the sky-high promises that we got in 2008? You know what? We've got the majority, and we've got it in the House. We've got it in the Senate. It's going to be me. Even though I need those two bodies, it's going to be me. And I'm going to change all the healthcare into single payer. And you know what? I'm going to expand welfare. Because there's so many people out there who think that they have to work, and I don't want them to think that they have to work. I think they should be able to go be a barista and do their art, and pay off them student loans, and buy a house, and furthermore, those student loans. I promise, because we had the majority in 2008, and even though it's all Bush's fault, we're going to get rid of those too. What happened to those sky-high promises? Why are we not focusing on them? Why are we only focusing on the sky-high promises this time through? Senator Chris Coons, who helped organize a bipartisan letter backing up the legislative filibuster in 2017, says seriously weighing what to do. Part of the point of this week is for us to have a vigorous discussion as a caucus and debate and understand what the proposal is. But I think passing the John Lewis Voting Rights Restoration Act and the Freedom to Vote Act is an urgent priority, Coons said. For a caucus that prides itself on unity, there's plenty of nuance in Democrats' views. Some, like John Tester, like a talking filibuster, but are not crazy about making an exception for voting rights. Meanwhile, Jean Shaheen says reform is needed, but is promoting more modest changes. She cites the near impossible odds the party faces in getting all 50 Democrats on board for changing the filibuster unilaterally, also known as the nuclear option. Manchin is hearing out several of his colleagues on changes, including Tester, while Sinema has urged public debate. If Schumer does bring up the rules, changes to the floor, there's a thought among his colleagues that everybody but Manchin and Sinema will quickly fall into line. Democrats may never know until a vote occurs, and liberal groups are eager for Democrats to proceed. Still, there's plenty of risk in moving forward, including the potential GOP attacks on battleground state Democrats like Kelly for taking tough votes on a doomed proposal. Yeah, see, and that's one of the things too, and I think Schumer's bluffing, by the way, and I don't think he's going to do this. And here's why. It's an election year. And the idea of change the filibuster, unless you are a super progressive who thinks that you're actually going to get your student loans forgiven off of this. So unless you're a super progressive like that, or a super neoliberal who thinks that Joe Biden walks on fucking water, this idea is really unpopular around the country. You want to have more battleground states? And I saw this argument too. Oh, well, the candidates only visited a handful of 6 states. Which wasn't true, by the way, but the candidates only visited a handful of states throughout 2016. You want to see a bunch of battleground states? This is how you make a bunch of fucking battleground states. I'm telling you right now. Because you can only honk the elections so hard before differential turnout across the nation buries you. But I would love to see them bring the vote down to the floor. Get everybody's name to this who wants to vote for this and see who survives the re-election bid, especially given who is all up for re-election. And I know Democrats aren't defending a lot of seats this particular season. Republicans are defending a lot more seats and a lot more swing seats, but you want to turn those swing seats solid red? Go for it. Do it. Do it, you fucking won't. Bring it down to the floor. Let these people put their name on it. And then go back to their districts and tell them why. But the smear pieces have to come, of course, as well. 2 of Senator Sinema's former aides have recently lobbied for corporate giants looking to influence Biden's agenda. From Brian Schwartz. 2 of Kyrsten Sinema's former aides have recently lobbied for corporate giants that have sought to influence Joe Biden's agenda. The ex-staffers work on behalf of financial giants HSBC, Starbucks investment firm C5 Capital, Duke Energy, lead and copper producer Doe Run Company, and mining concern Broken Hill Proprietary, according to registration and quarterly reports. The 2 people are Kate Gonzalez and Alyssa Marios. Appear to be rare examples of former Sinema staffers registered to lobby in the federal government. Their position makes them particularly valuable to their clients since their former boss, an Arizona Democrat, is a pivotal vote in a Senate split 50-50 by party. Sinema and conservative Democrat Joe Manchin have played a vital role in the Democratic Health Senate in the past year as their party tries to pass bills, including Biden's Build Back Bullshit Act, with a simple majority. A single Democratic defection can sink major legislation. Sinema has not committed to voting for the Build Back Bullshit Act, Biden's $1.75 trillion social and climate spending package, as Democrats negotiated the Build Back Bullshit Act last year. Sinema shot down Biden's proposal to raise the corporate tax rate to at least 25% from 21%. She backed more complicated plans for minimum corporate tax and surtax on the wealthiest individuals. The centrist. No, not centrist. That is a lie, cooked up by people who want you to believe that she's some kind of Republican. Sinema, who went from communist to Green Party, but I repeat myself, from communist organizer to Green Party, I believe city alderperson, to Democrat representative, but again I repeat myself, to centrist senator? No. Has also rankled members of her own party on other issues. While she supports an election reform bill the Senate plans to take up this week, she has opposed eliminating the filibuster to pass the controversial bill in the face of unified Republican efforts to block it, because it's unconstitutional. Sinema helped write and voted for Biden's recently signed $1.2 trillion infrastructure law. For his part, Manchin has opposed the Build Back Bullshit plan and making changes to filibuster rules. Gonzalez, one of the former cinema aides turned lobbyist, must wait a year before being able to lobby cinema's office, according to Senate rules. Gonzalez's LinkedIn page says she left cinema's office in April after 5 months as policy advisor. But this is what they're going to try to run back out here in Samira with here. Oh, well, she's just raising lobbyists so she can go raise money for big business partners because she's owned by the corporations. Bitch, this woman has no interest in raising the corporations except for, well, them being the Politburo as she ushers in the new communist revolution. Alright, here's some more Biden behaving badly, as we're talking about Manchin and cinema. The sad truth. I'm glad President Biden finally decided to use the bully pulpit today. 16 Republican senators that were for voting rights in 2006 are now suddenly against it. Well, they probably were for it on state level, and if they weren't, they're completely misguided as to how the Constitution works. Including Leader McConnell, Marsha Blackburn, and John Thune. Why? Because they can't win without cheating. Will you stand for democracy, Joe Manchin? Yes or no? Will you stand for democracy, Senator Sinema? Yes or no? We are watching. What a fucking soy jack.
Yes or no? That's the question they'll answer. Will you stand election subversion? Yes or no? Will you stand for democracy? Yes or no? There's one thing every senator, every American should remember. History has never been kind to those who've sided with voter suppression over voters' rights. And it'll even be less kind for those who side with election subversion. Yes or no? That's the question they'll answer.
Honk, honk, honk. Alright, from the Hill, Manchin doubles down on filibuster ahead of Biden's speech. From Jordan Carney, Senator Joe Manchin doubled down Tuesday on his support for the filibuster as President Biden heads to Georgia to publicly push for changes to the Senate rule in order to pass voting rights legislation. We need some good rules to changes to make the place work better, but getting rid of the filibuster doesn't make it work better, Manchin told reporters. Given support from Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema for the legislative filibuster, which requires 60 votes for most bills to advance in the Senate, Democrats acknowledge that getting rid of it altogether isn't on the table. Instead, they're discussing smaller changes that include moving to a talking filibuster, where opponents could delay the bill for as long as they could hold the floor, but legislation would ultimately be able to pass with a simple majority. They also mulled a carve-out that would exempt voting rights legislation from needing 60 votes. Democrats are also discussing smaller changes, including shifting from needing 60 votes to break a filibuster to needing 41 votes to sustain it, or getting rid of the 60-vote hurdle currently required for starting debate while keeping it in place for ending debate. But Republicans aren't expected to support any of these rule changes, meaning the Democrats would need to use the nuclear option that lets them change the rules by a simple majority. Manchin hasn't endorsed a rule change option, and in a potentially bigger hurdle for Democrats, he's long opposed changing the rules through the nuclear option. Well, it's because he saw what happened after Harry Reid did it, and then the gavel went back to the Turtle Man in the tan suit. He added Tuesday that the rules should be changed by 2/3 of the Senate, referring to 67 votes needed to change the rules outside the nuclear option. We need some good rules changes, we can do that together, but you change the rules with 2/3 of the people that are present, so Democrats, Republicans changing the rules to make the place work better. Getting rid of the filibuster doesn't make it work better, he said. Manchin has previously floated more modest rules changes, including getting rid of the 60-vote hurdle to start debate, or moving from requiring 60 votes to 3/5 of those present, and voting to break a filibuster. He's also acknowledged that a talking filibuster is part of what is under discussion among Senate Democrats. He reiterated some of those ideas during a subsequent interview on Tuesday, as well as the idea of guaranteed amendment votes and making it easier for bills to get significant support in committee to get votes to the floor. I'm looking at everything I can to make this place work, but to break the opportunity for the minority to particulate completely, that's just not who we are, Manchin said. Democrats could change the rules on their own if they could get 50 senators to support the move and put Vice President Harris in the chair to break the tie, but that would require both Manchin and Sinema to support not only changing the filibuster rule, but also to change the rules along party lines, and also John Tester and Mark Kelly. They don't have the votes. And they think they have this big majority, too. That's one of the things that gets me, too. And, Harris is like, well, never in history has the minority had so much power to hold on to rules. And we need to come back and change this because we have the majority to do so. Well, Kamala, is 48 votes in a 100-person voting body, is that suddenly considered a majority? I'm asking for a friend. From CNN, House Democrats grapple with how to unstick a Manchin-blocked agenda. From Lauren Fox. House Democrats are in limbo. No, House Democrats are fucked. Members say they need moderate Democratic Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia to make it clear what he actually stands for before they begin retooling their Build Back Bullshit plan in a way that would actually have a chance of getting through the U.S. Senate. After passing their version of the bill late last year, House Democrats, including some progressives, are signaling they could be open to watering down the House-passed version of the bill in an effort to get something across the finish line so they don't completely crash and fucking burn come November, and provide frontline members of legislation to run on in the midterms. However, many also note the child tax credit, a piece that Manchin has specifically raised issues with, is a must. I think we are a caucus that believes in elements of Build Back Bullshit, so we want to get the most of it, Democratic Rep. Madeline Dean of Pennsylvania told CNN, but added concessions are compromise in legislating. We know that we may not get the exact language, the exact elements, but there are certain elements that are a must. The child tax credit made an extraordinary difference, not just in my district, but certainly in the state of West Virginia. Well, it's because the people haven't got their tax returns back yet. They haven't got their tax refunds back yet. I'm excited for that day. During a private caucus meeting, there was some discussion about where to go on Build Back Bullshit. Dean told CNN, but members made it clear there's still no consensus on how to forge ahead given the uncertainties surrounding Manchin's position. Representative Rosa DeLauro, a progressive Democrat from Connecticut, told CNN that the child tax credit is essential to include, and she had concerns about the any work requirement being added as Manchin had previously suggested. We're pressing for the child tax credit to be part of Build Back Bullshit, DeLauro said. Hey, I've got an idea. I've got an idea. Oh, hey, look over here. Hey. Pass the child tax credit on a single line bill. Take it out of Build Back Bullshit and pass it on a single line bill. If it's that important to you, if it's that much of a must-pass, take it out of the gigantic legislation that's laced with pork for all of your not your constituents, because you don't give a fuck about them, but for your corporate buddies and all those other people out there. Take it out of that particular pork-laden bullshit bill and pass it on a single-line vote. It's the same thing, by the way, with the cheap insulin. Well, Manchin hates diabetics because he's not going to vote to pass the Build Back Better bill, which had a provision in it to cap the price of insulin at $35 a vial or whatever the fuck stupid number it was. Here's an idea. If that's so important to you, pass it on a single line bill. go try to hide in something that's poison-pilled. Other Democrats warn that the House Democratic strategy is to compromise as much as is needed to get something passed. I don't think that's that it's acceptable to get nothing, Sherry Bustos, a Democrat from Illinois, said. I think we're going to figure out how to best navigate this. Obviously, we've got to navigate getting 50 Democratic votes. 49 is not enough. We either end up with something or we end up with nothing. House Ways and Means Chairman Richard Neal warned that there isn't a whole lot to the House can do until Manchin speaks up and says what he would actually support. We need to figure out what he's for, Neal, a Democrat from Massachusetts, said of Manchin. There's frustration because we think it's a really good piece of legislation. Of course it is, because the people who donate to your campaign are set to profit millions of dollars from it. But that's what we see from that. From The Blaze, CNN contributor says Democrats opposed to ending the filibuster are just like segregationists who opposed civil rights. Would that be like this segregationist who opposed civil rights? You guys know who I'm going to put up here. Well, let's look at people who loved the filibuster, shall we? There's a segregationist who hated civil rights right there. That's a person who loved the motherfucking filibuster in the short time he was in the Senate. Let's see. Who else loved the filibuster? There's got to be someone else that loved the filibuster. If I could type. Look at that, another segregationist who hated civil rights, who loved the filibuster. That guy used the filibuster like it was his fucking job. Let's see, who else? Who else? Hey, here's another segregationist who hates civil rights and loves the filibuster, or loved the filibuster. Hey, look, there's another one. 2 years in the Senate. Loved that motherfucking filibuster. Loved it. But yes, no, tell me more about segregationists who hated civil rights. And that's what, well, I suppose they're all Democrats right now, so I can see where we're going with this. Let's go back to The Blaze. From Carlos Garcia. Bakari Sellers compared Democrats who are opposed to ending the filibuster to those who were opposed to granting civil rights for African Americans in the 60s. Well, they're all Democrats, so you're absolutely right off of that. Sellers made the comments on CNN Tuesday after a report detailing the lack of support among Senate Democrats needed to change U.S. regulations in order to push a Voting Rights Act through Congress. This is as clear as I can be, Jake, and Chris Coons is a friend of mine, said Sellers to Jake Tapper. I think I'm going to have to reset the router. Because I've noticed here that got popped offline a couple times throughout this, and it was happening yesterday too. I'll have to go unplug that and plug it back in after the show. But if Chris Coons, John Tester, Mark Kelly, Kirsten Sinema, and Joe Manchin want to be on the side of George Wallace, want to be on the side of Strom Thurmond, and many others who stood in the way of civil rights, even Strom Thurmond came around on voting rights. But if they want to go down in history as standing on the side of segregationists and those who oppose people who look like me having free and fair access to the ballot, then we will remember them as such. What party were George Wallace, Strom Thurmond in? You might not want to invoke those names, because when people go back to look and see what kind of Republican platform they stood on, they're going to find out something you don't want them to find out. I hate to tell you that. But it's always got to be a racial thing. It's always got to be a race thing when they can't get their way. And a lot of these, even neoliberal Democrats, are terrified of being called a racist. You know, like neocon Republicans used to be. Well, neocon Republicans still are. From the Hill. McConnell vows retaliation if Democrats change the filibuster. Most likely. From Jordan Carney, once again. Senate Minority Leader Turtleman McConnell vowed Tuesday that the Republicans would retaliate if Democrats changed the legislative filibuster, threatening to gum up the chamber and cause major headaches. McConnell, speaking from the Senate floor, argued that changing the requirement that most legislation needs 60 votes to advance would silence the voices of millions of Americans, represented by GOP senators. That's what they're trying to get to. That's the point. We will make their voices heard. Hold on. We will make their voices heard in this chamber in ways that are more inconvenient for the majority in this White House than what anybody has seen in living memory, McConnell said. I don't know. As much as I don't like Mitch McConnell, he did get the wailing and gnashing of teeth off the Supreme Court justices based on the nuclear option precedent set by Harry Reid. What would a post-nuclear Senate look like? I assure you, it would not be more efficient or more productive. I personally guarantee it, he added. The Senate operates throughout the day on unanimous consent, meaning deals would have buy-in from the entire chamber, but McConnell warned that Republicans would be willing to block those routine agreements, making it more painful for Democrats to accomplish day-to-day steps like setting the schedule or allowing committee meetings. Do my colleagues understand how many times per day the Senate needs to get unanimous consent for basic housekeeping? Do they understand how many things could require roll call votes? How often the minority could demand lengthy debate? Our colleagues who are itching for a procedural nuclear winter have not even begun to contemplate how it would look, McConnell said. If the Democratic leader tries to shut down millions of Americans and entire states out of business of governing, the operations of the body will change. Oh yes, that much is true. But not in a way that rewards the rule breakers, not in a way that advantages this president, this majority or their party. You know who else used to love the filibuster? You know what other pro-segregationist? What person who hates civil rights used to love the filibuster when it advantaged him? Look at this evil pro-segregationist right here. That guy loved the fucking filibuster. At one point, when it advantaged him. And yeah, that's one thing that they don't seem to understand is the fact that yes, once they get punished at the ballot box, completely punished at the ballot box, there's not going to be anything to stop them. And yes, of course, the Democrats will need to come in for the procedural votes as well on everything off this and could come up the works the other direction. But if the nuclear option is out there and this happens to go into the Republican hands, you will see wailing and gnashing of teeth like you have never seen before. All right, now let's go to the voting rights speech. Biden calls on Senate to change the filibuster rules to pass voting rights bill in forceful speech. Jill! Jill! What am I supposed to be? Oh. Thank you, Jill. I'm tired of being quiet. From Megan Vasquez. President Biden painted a dire picture for the nation's future election. Dude, I don't want to know what's inside of his adult diaper. I don't want to know what kind of dire picture is inside of his Depends. Seriously? President Biden painted a dire picture for the nation's futures elections during the major speech on voting rights while in Atlanta on Tuesday, expressing his frustration at Republicans who blocked voting rights legislation and calling on the U.S. Senate to change its filibuster rules to accommodate the bill's passage. I've been having these quiet conversations with members of Congress for the last 2 months, man, and I'm tired of being quiet, Biden said, slamming his hand on the lectern. And now his orthopedist is crying. The president's speech in Atlanta, at the heart of the civil rights movement, is the latest in his recurring calls for the nation's voting rights to be bolstered. Throughout the first year of his presidency, Biden has devoted several speeches to voting rights, including in Tulsa, on the centenary of the race massacre in that city, South Carolina State University's graduation ceremony at the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. Yeah, imagine using all of these to go and try to pass your agenda because nobody else wants to come back and hear you speech otherwise. At the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial in Washington and at the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia. Changing the filibuster rules in the Senate, which require 60 votes to end debate on legislation, was a major focus of the day on Tuesday, and Biden's address specifically. Without changing the rules, it's unclear how either bill Biden wants passed, the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, will get done. Without changing the rules, it's unclear how Biden... let's see, I read that one already. During the remarks made on the grounds of the Clark Atlanta University and Morehouse College, Biden called for the rules to be changed. He had previously expressed his support for making an exception to the filibuster rules in order to pass voting rights legislation, but expressed more flexibility on Tuesday. Isn't? No, I was thinking, isn't one of these historically black colleges and universities? But no, I don't think this is actually. I support changing the Senate rules, whichever way they need to be changed to prevent a minority of senators from blocking actions on voting rights, man. Come on. The Senate is expected to take up voting rights in the coming days. Majority Leader Chuck U. Schumer set a deadline of January 17th. Of course, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, for the Senate to vote on a rules change if Republicans continue to block voting rights legislation. Harkening back to his campaign slogan, the president told attendees in Atlanta that the battle for the soul of America is not over, and he directly tied the passage of voting rights legislation to the January 6th Selfie Fest, because of course he did. Is there a video of this speech? Yeah, but it's really long, so we're not going to do the whole thing. There is a video of it, though. Harkening back, let's see, to his campaign slogan, the president told attendees in Atlanta, the battle for the soul of America is not over. And he directly tied the passage of voting rights legislation to the January 6th Selfie Fest. Biden recalled the violent mob that stormed the U.S. Capitol. I love how CNN put that in quotes, by the way, on January 6, 2021, and former President Trump, who he said, they sought to win through violence what he lost through the ballot box, to oppose the will of a mob, to overturn a free and fair election. The freest and fairest election in history, too, honk honk. Nothing bad happened in 2020's election. The only election that's been rigged in history was the 2016 election. Honk, honk. And for the first time in American history, to stop a peaceful transfer of power. They failed. They failed. But democracy's victory was not certain, nor is this democracy's future. Man, come on, Biden continued. I wonder what amphetamines they've got this guy jacked up on at this point, because he's actually being somewhat coherent. I wish there was video of this because I wanted to see it. That isn't an hour and 27 minutes long. Because that's what I have, is the hour and 27 minute version. Or a 30-minute version too, but yeah, I'm not going to do 30 minutes off of this. Hey look, here's from the New York Post on the advertisement. Amy Klobuchar says Kavanaugh's vetting process was a sham. Sign now to impeach him. That is not a can of worms you want to open with Kagan and Sotomayor on your bench. That is not a road you want to go down. As your employer, although you're not a senator in my state, but still, as a federal taxpayer, as your employer, I'm going to advise you, do not go down that road. It will not turn out well for you. Biden calls Capitol riot a coup in Georgia speech, claims he was arrested in civil rights protest. President Brandon on Tuesday branded the Capitol riot a coup attempt and called on the Senate to scrap its usual 60-vote threshold to pass a pair of election reform bills, but his message was clouded by distracting gaffes. Biden's sharpened attack on former President Donald Trump and his supporters was bracketed by Biden once referring to Vice President Harris as President Harris, and by his assertion that he was arrested multiple times while fighting for civil rights. Well, we're here today, man, to stand against the forces in America that value power over principle. And forces that attempted a coup, man. Come on. A coup against the legally expressed will of the American people by sowing doubt, inventing charges of fraud, and seeking to steal the 2020 election from the people, Biden said at a shared Atlanta venue for historically black colleges. Oh, it was an HBCU. Huh, I was right the first time. Oh, so this is just pandering is what he did. They want chaos to reign. We want the people to rule, said the president, adding, the battle for the soul of America is not over. We must stand strong and stand together to make sure January 6th marks not the end of democracy, but the beginning of a renaissance of our democracy. It's unclear if Biden has ever before used the term coup to describe the riot that disrupted certification of his victory in the Electoral College. For 2 hours. Everybody was back to work within a couple of hours. Not like my hometown, where there are businesses that'll never open again. He did not use the word last week in his speech on the first anniversary of the Capitol Selfie Fest. The term is generally used by the U.S. government to describe unrest in foreign countries, and the Brandon administration used the word in service of a push to pass federal election reforms that would override recent election law changes in Republican-led states, as prescribed by Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution. Maybe you guys should read that at some point. Which Biden linked to the riot and Trump's claims of widespread voter fraud. The defeated former president and his supporters used the big lie about the 2020 election to fuel torment and anti-voting laws. Come on, man, he said. The stalled federal election bills aren't expected to pass because the centrist Senate Democrats refuse to lower the threshold and begin an end debate on most legislation from 60 votes to 50 votes, but the issue is a base rallying cause, and Senate Majority Leader Chuck U. Schumer intends to bring the matter to a vote by Martin Luther King Jr. Day next week. Yeah, this whole second-class citizen thing coming out of the administration is, it's moving to a point that maybe we need to start being concerned a little bit here. And as I've said, as we saw by the setup on January 6th, and not only that, but by the attempted setup on the Justice for January 6th rally that was totally not a psyop on the Capitol back last September. Don't bring the fight to the federal government. They're better at killing than you are. Ask Ashley Babbitt how good they are at killing. Without remorse, they reward the people that kill. They're the government, of course they do. Never bring the fight to the federal government. Let them bring it to you. Which somebody already tried to do, as happened on Tim Pool's show last week. Here was an interesting side of this here. From CNN, Stacey Abrams and Biden blame scheduling issue for voting rights speech absence. This is from Dan America. Both President Biden and Georgia Democratic gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams. No, she's the rightful governor of Georgia. Just ask her. She totally won in 2018. Just ask her. She never conceded. She totally won. Both President Biden and Georgia Democratic gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams are citing a scheduling issue to explain why the state's most prominent voting rights activists will not be attending the Democratic president's speech on the topic in Atlanta on Tuesday afternoon. Abrams, who used her 2018 gubernatorial loss, I'm telling you, she assured us she didn't lose, that's not a gubernatorial loss, to Republican Brian Kemp to elevate voting rights as an issue, and is running for governor again in 2022 has a scheduling conflict, a spokesperson told CNN. And Brandon, when asked about Abrams not attending the event as he left the White House to travel to Georgia, also cited a scheduling issue. I spoke to Stacey this morning. Well spoken, clean person. We have a great relationship, the president said. We got our scheduling all mixed up. Biden and Abrams have long been close. When then-candidate Biden was looking at running mate, the Georgia Democrat was among the small list of women that he considered. But the fact that arguably the Democratic Party's most prominent voting rights activist, someone who founded Fair Fight Action, an organization that advocates for voter protection across the country, after her 2018 defeat, I'm telling you guys, don't let her hear that you're calling her win in 2018 a defeat. Because she's assured us for almost 4 years that she totally won that election. Won't be at the president's voting rights speech in her own state has struck some Democrats as questionable. And Republicans have already jumped on Abrams for not attending the Biden event. Republicans pounce! That's a CNN line for you. It's very interesting that Abrams has a conflict and can't join him. Ronna Daniel, chair of the Republican National Committee, said in a call with reporters on Tuesday, I think we all know what the conflict is. It's Joe Biden's terrible poll numbers. Abrams' absence was made even more striking after several voting rights groups say they too will not attend the speech because they would like to see action on voting rights legislation, not another speech by the president. Well, they need to petition their state reps and their state senators to do that. And get a veto-proof majority to override Governor Brian Kemp. Because, per Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution, this is a state's issue. This is not a federal issue. It never has been. In the history of this country, this has never been a federal issue. But that's an interesting thought to this, and I didn't pre-read this article, but Ron McDaniel, as much as I can't stand the woman, makes an interesting point off of this too. His poll numbers, his approval is abysmal right now. And I can't think of a Democrat that would be excited to be seen with him at the current moment. Now, if something changes around, I'm sure they'll go back and jump on the bandwagon. But I could see where this could be a dead weight on your campaigning to be seen with the current president right now, where his numbers are at. And I still think Ron McDaniel should shut up. But that's what they're saying off of that. Let's grab one from the Hill, because the orange idiot had to get involved, because of course he did. Trump mocks Biden over Abrams' absence from voting rights speech. From Max Greenwood. Former President Trump ridiculed President Biden on Tuesday over Georgia Democrat Stacey Abrams' absence from his voting rights speech in Atlanta, pointing to her non-attendance as a sign that she wants nothing to do with the president, and that he wants attention again. It's been the MO for 40 fucking years with this dude, so... Stacey Abrams helped Biden steal the 2020 election in Georgia, but now she won't even share a stage with Joe, Trump said in a statement. Stacey knows that Biden actually lost big in Georgia, okay, and in the 2020 presidential election as a whole, and he's been so terrible, she now wants nothing to do with him, Trump added. Even the woke, radical left realizes that Joe Biden's administration is an embarrassment. Folks, it's the worst, okay? It's the worst, and I know things about a worst administration. I know exactly about that. It's the worst. And you're taking that from me, your favorite former president, okay? 2024, okay? Abrams, who's running for Georgia governor, was notably missing from Biden's voting rights speech on Tuesday afternoon, with both Democrats blaming an unspecified scheduling conflict for the absence. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't. I know that she is busy running for governor right now, and getting all these money for charity and everything else that she claimed she was doing in all these commercials. But when the President of the United States is in your city, and is of your party, I think that it would behoove you, unless there's a real reason to do so, to drop what you're doing and go attend his speech. I think that's a given at this point. Alright, I got this one archived from the Charlotte Observer. A little bit of the gerrymandering crisis going on around the country right now. The Charlotte Observer reports North Carolina can go ahead with political maps. Court rules in win for GOP ahead of the 2022 midterms. From Will Duran. North Carolina's new political districts do not violate the state constitution. A panel of 3 judges ruled unanimously on Tuesday. The GOP-drawn maps would give Republicans a built-in advantage in future elections, but none of the reasons why challengers said maps are unconstitutional stand up to legal scrutiny, the judges ruled. In other words, politicians may use their redistricting process to give their party an edge. Indeed, the judges wrote, redistricting is an inherently political process and is meant to be that way. They added there's no guarantee that the number of seats a political party wins in Congress or the state legislature will be proportional to the share of the statewide vote that a party wins. Redistricting and the political considerations that are part of the process do not impinge on the rights to vote, they wrote. Nothing about redistricting affects the person's right to cast a vote. The challengers immediately announced Tuesday that they plan to appeal the ruling, because of course they do. It's possible it could go straight to the Supreme Court, which has a Democratic majority, I think that's going to be the state Supreme Court, which has a Democratic majority. These three Superior Court judges who ruled Tuesday were 2 Republicans, Wake County Judge Graham Shirley and Catawba County Judge Nathaniel Poobie, and 1 Democrat, Anson County Judge Dawn Layton. Their ruling upheld both the congressional map, which is expected to give Republicans a 10-4 or 11-3 advantage among North Carolina's 14 U.S. House of Representatives seats in a 50-50 election, and the maps for the state legislature, which were also expected to produce a strong Republican majority even if Democrats win the majority of the vote. So, a few things to go with off of that and see off of this, and I know that this has been a big deal. I know that those totally natural shapes in Illinois were totally not meant for Democrats to win and keep Chicago in the seat of power in Illinois, and those districts that have totally perfectly natural shapes in Maryland were totally not meant to keep Democrats in power in Maryland either. But I know, like right now, it's either going to be, because my state is embattled. Wisconsin is completely embattled right now. Tony Evers and the Republican-led legislature are not going to come and see eye to eye on how to redraw the map. So I believe our state Supreme Court is going to be the one that winds up redrawing the map. And I'm kind of interested to see how that turns out and where that goes. I know that they one of the things they wanted to do in the state was take a lot of this district into District 2. I'm in District 1. They want to take a lot of us into District 2, so District 1 would be bluer, and District 2 is reliably blue anyway because it's Madison. And nothing's going to change that, but yeah, the redraw is going to be an interesting fight coming up through the rest of the term. Alright, here's one for you guys from the Post-Millennial. This is kind of interesting because we watched the video yesterday, and I'm actually glad we took the time. I know Quest says that my Twitter trending is the weakest closing argument, but sometimes it is the only way to get some of this news coverage, is to go on to watch the Twitter trending off of this, and that seems to be the case off this, because the video that we watched from Veritas yesterday is gone, and so is the account of the person who posted it. From the Post-Millennial, breaking, Project Veritas releases military documents that contradict Fauci's sworn testimony on gain-of-function research. From Ari Hoffman, Project Veritas released documents Monday night which appear to contradict NIH Director Dr. Anthony Fauci, that is Saint Anthony of Fauci, patron saint of medicine's, sworn testimony regarding gain-of-function research. The documents come from a report at the Defensive Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA, which were allegedly hidden in a top-secret shared drive. I believe...
Senator, with all due respect,
And that's a 7-minute video. We just saw a little clip of this, but yeah, this is the full video that Veritas put out. We saw the short clip on the Twitter account for this. DARPA facilitates research in technology with potential military applications under the U.S. Department of Defense. Veritas has obtained a report which stated that EcoHealth Alliance approached DARPA in March of 2018 looking to obtain funding for Project Diffuse to conduct gain-of-function research of coronaviruses from bats. According to Veritas, the proposal was rejected by DARPA because it violated a gain-of-function research moratorium. Additionally, there were safety concerns. According to the document, NIAID, under the direction of Saint Fauci, proceeded with the research at the Wuhan Virology Lab in China and at several sites across the U.S. Saint Anthony, has repeated under oath during multiple congressional hearings that the NIH and NIAID have not been involved with gain-of-function research with the EcoHealth Alliance program. According to Veritas, the report goes on to detail concerns regarding the COVID-19 gain-of-function program, the concealment of documents, the suppression of potential curatives like... Can I say those words on YouTube? Horse paste and fish tank cleaner, there we go. That won't get me banned from YouTube. And the mRNA vaccines. DARPA's Chief of Communications, Jared Adams, told Veritas, when asked about the secrecy surrounding the documents, "Show me the documents. It doesn't sound normal to me. If something resides in a classified setting, I think it should be appropriately marked. I'm not at all familiar with unmarked documents that reside in classified space." According to Veritas, the main report regarding the EcoHealth Alliance proposal leaked on the internet a couple months ago, it has remained unverified until now. So, a lot of information there too, and we'll probably watch the video on Monday, I think. Maybe I'll edit some of it back out of this for this, but it is available on Rumble as per usual. It was taken down off of Twitter. It was taken down off of YouTube. Posobiec tweeting out, "Breaking! Project Veritas' Eric Spracklin suspended by Twitter on day after DARPA video." Eric Spracklin tweets out, has his account suspended. 198.7 thousand followers. And the letter that he got out from there says, "Your account, Eric Spracklin, has been suspended for violating Twitter rules. Specifically for violating our rules against ban evasion. You may not circumvent a Twitter suspension, enforcement action, or anti-spam challenge. This behavior intended to evade any Twitter remediation, such as creating a new account or repurposing an already existing account. Note that if you attempt to evade a permanent suspension by creating new accounts, we will suspend your new accounts. If you wish to appeal the suspension, please contact our support team." And that seems to be what they try to go with at this point when they can't nail you on anything else. They just try to pop you with ban evasion. But that's what we see off of that. All right, let's talk about the Pinko Pox. Jillian Jorgensen tweets out, "Hundreds of kids walked out of Brooklyn Tech today to protest the continuation of in-person school during Omicron wave and call for remote action." Let's listen to what that sounded like. Okay, that's weird. Nothing on Twitter is responding for me. I just tried to refresh my page. Hey, maybe I'm banned too. But we can figure that out later. At this point here, coming back and looking at this here, Ermagerd update. New York City, hundreds of Brooklyn Tech students stage walkout over COVID cases. This is from ABC 7 Eyewitness News. As many as 200 students walked out of Brooklyn Tech High School Tuesday to demand New York City offer remote learning. The students say the spike in COVID cases after the holiday worries them. Some say the access to at-home tests has been limited, and they're concerned that some teachers and students are still coming to school sick. So they want to be able to choose online learning. Having all these children stacked on top of each other, especially in schools as large as Brooklyn Tech, is not ideal. I think that just having a hybrid option would just alleviate the stress and make everything a little bit safer for everyone. Brooklyn Tech high school student Jada Sahin said, "I just genuinely do not feel safe in the school building anymore. At this point, I think after winter break, we crossed the line from in-person being better to remote and hybrid being better," student Rami Sasson said. Okay, finally one of these kids is saying something that makes sense. Dude, the hybrid learning option is probably something that should be explored forever at this point. Because there are kids that are going to do better off of it, whether they come back in on the regular live stream off of it or take it back on a replay. That's the other thing too, is there should be an option for replay at all of this too. You know, it eliminates some of the sick days, it gives people a chance to go get caught back up, and even if somebody didn't quite understand the assignment, it gives the kids the chance to come back out and say, "Hey, I didn't understand the assignment, what can I do? Hey, I can go back and watch this again and figure it out again." Learning at some of their own paces. And, You know, we're not in the factory worker situation anymore where you've got to be there from 7 to 3 in the afternoon. Constantly. All the time, every time. That's not the situation of work in this country anymore. And some people are going to do better in the morning. Some people are going to do better in the afternoon. Some people are going to do better working from home. Some people are going to do better working in the classroom. The option should be there for all of them. But now I know, of course, and we read about this yesterday from the Daily Wire, that a lot of this is fueled right now based on the fact that the teachers union was trying to urge the kids to do the walkout, and they got caught with it. And then they quickly deleted and corrected the statement. So now they actually have come out and done the walkout. So that's what we see coming off of that. I don't know why then over with the Fauci stuff. But let's read this here. DoD rejects EcoHealth bid due to concerns over gain-of-function research, report says. Veritas has reportedly verified a rejection letter not previously made public from a government agency refusing to offer funding to EcoHealth Alliance for failing to assess potential risks of gain-of-function research in the studies they sought to perform at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. EcoHealth was the recipient of millions of dollars in taxpayer-funded grant money from the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases to perform research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology studying how coronaviruses move from bats to humans. Critics argued that the grant-facilitated research included controversial gain-of-function experiments, but government officials like National Institutes of Health Director Francis Collins and NIAID Director St. Anthony Fauci, the patron saint of medicine, have insisted that gain-of-function research was not occurring on the government's dime. Can you imagine if a SARS virus that's been juiced up and had viral proteins added to it, the spike protein, if that were released accidentally, Rand Paul asked Fauci during a May Senate hearing. Veritas reported having obtained and verified a letter from DARPA rejecting funds to EcoHealth Alliance. The rejection letter said the agency was not going to provide funding to EcoHealth Alliance because its proposal does not mention or assess potential risks of gain-of-function research, the DARPA rejection letter said, according to Project Veritas. Yeah, I need to sit down and actually watch this whole video too, because there is more to it than just the 2 minutes that we saw on the Twitter trending yesterday. That's quickly tried to be wiped out from everybody's memory. The fact, and that's any time that Veritas gets in the news, they try quickly to wipe it out from memory. But that's what we see off of that. Alright, if you actually want to go down DC for whatever reason, Godspeed. I feel sorry for you. But if you do want to go down there, there are some new regulations that are going to be in place. From the Washington Post, where democracy goes to die in darkness, DC's coronavirus vaccination requirement, what you need to know. From Fritz Hahn. As of 0600 on January 15th, anyone 12 or older wishing to enter a DC restaurant, bar, sports venue, gym, nightclub, or conference center will need to show proof that they've had at least one shot of an approved coronavirus vaccine. As of February 15th, everyone visiting those same venues will have to demonstrate that they've had a full initial course of vaccination, which does not include boosters. Pulling out CDC cards alongside tickets is nothing new for fans of music and theater. Almost all local nightclubs, performing arts venues ranging from the Kennedy Center to Arena Stage to the 930 Club have been asking for proof of full vaccination since last summer. Some, such as Anthem and DC9, have also stopped accepting negative test results in lieu of vaccination. Dozens of bars and restaurants already ask guests to show vaccination cards before being seated, a movement that began last summer but increased in popularity after Muriel Bowser announced the vaccine requirement in late December. District officials have made clear that they look at these requirements as a way to incentivize residents to get their shots. The top of the mayor's order lays out the argument vaccine requirements have resulted in more persons who are vaccine hesitant deciding to get vaccinated. One other reminder, this rule doesn't change DC's indoor mask mandate, so even if you're fully vaccinated and boosted, you must continue wearing a mask when not actively eating or drinking. As the mandate begins, things might operate a little differently. At your favorite restaurant or outside Capital One Arena, here's what you need to know. Where do I have to show proof of vaccination? The list includes restaurants, bars, sports arenas, movie theaters, nightclubs, performing arts centers, gyms, conventions, or conference centers. Basically, anywhere you're going to be sitting indoors in a crowded public space for a period of time is going to require a Vax card. Though there are some specific exemptions, such as houses of worship. Where don't I have to show proof? The rule of thumb is any indoor location where you're walking around most of the time, such as grocery stores, bookstores, or other retail establishments, and aforementioned places of worship. The full list of locations, which range from homeless shelters to polling places to the DMV polling places is interesting, is available on the DC's website. However, there are exceptions. If you go hear your favorite author read at a sit-down event inside a bookstore, you're going to have to show proof to enter. Ditto if you go to a church for a concert rather than a service. Exceptions are made for people who are briefly entering a business, such as to pick up takeout order from a restaurant or to use the restroom. That puts fast casual restaurants and coffee shops in a gray area, as they offer both to-go and sit-down service. At Little Sesame, for example, customers approaching the counter to order will be asked if they're dining in, says spokeswoman Maddie Becksworth. If so, they'll be asked to show proof of vaccination and corresponding ID. And this is where it gets really weird for the Democrat agenda. And I noticed, by the way, that little detail for this was buried, in spite of the fact that, yes, this is up at the top, but this is at a nightclub where you would normally be showing your ID anyway. But if you're at the coffee shop and you're dining in, you'll need your vaccination card and your corresponding ID. So, to go to the restaurant, to go to the bar, to go to a sit-down reading event inside a bookstore, to go to a concert in a church, you need your ID. But you know what you don't need your ID? What's racist to require your ID for? To vote. What does this mean for my kids? This order applies to everyone aged 12 and older, though those younger than 18 do not need to show an ID along with their vaccination card. But everywhere that you go in DC now, you need to show ID no matter what. Except unless you're going to vote. Because that's racist. Everywhere else in DC, you need an ID, but not to vote. Slow clap. From the Daily Wire, federal agency making list on personal religious information of vaccine objecting employees. From Ryan Saavedra. A small federal administrative agency will start to collect the personal religious information of its own employees who object to taking coronavirus vaccines for religious reasons. The Pretrial Services Agency for the District of Columbia, which assists judicial officers in the DC court system, announced on Tuesday its intent to create the Pretrial Services Agency for the District of Columbia Privacy Act system of records, the Employee Religious Exemption Request Information System, the agency said. This system of records maintains personal religious information collected in response to religious accommodation requests for religious exemption from the federally mandated vaccine requirement in the context of public health, emergency, or similar health or safety incident, such as a pandemic, epidemic, natural disaster, or natural or regional emergency, and or any other lawful collection of employee information or data that is necessary to ensure safe and healthy environment for individuals who are occupying PSA facilities, attending PSA-sponsored events, or otherwise engaged in official business on behalf of the agency. The system of records will assist the agency in collecting, storing, dissemination, and disposal of employee religious exemption request information collected and maintained by the agency as referenced above. Now, that's terrifying. Because that's coming down to the point of the government saying, okay, now if you're going to claim that you're religious, you have to show a proof of religion. The Daily Signal speculated that the move could serve as a model for a whole-of-government push to assemble lists of Americans who object on religious grounds to a COVID-19 vaccine. And what do we know about it when socialists start to go and make lists, especially that have to do with somebody's religion? That always turns out well in history, doesn't it? Doesn't that always turn out well in history? When socialists in charge of everything come out and start to make lists that have to do with a person's religion? The move comes as the Supreme Court is considering whether Democrat President Joe Biden's vaccine mandate is constitutional after hearing 4 hours of oral arguments over 2 of the admin's vaccine mandates last Friday. I think there may be a split ruling of the court. Center for American Liberty CEO and civil rights attorney Harmeet Dillon predicted. I think in the case challenging the large employer mandate, it looks to me like we have 5 or 6 votes to enjoin that order, she said. But on the one regarding medical facilities, because the order is tied to federal funding, I think there are some different arguments there, and the justices seem more likely to uphold that OSHA mandate on medical facilities. Yeah, I think that one's going to stay in, unfortunately. Just because it's, hey, you want to keep getting our money, you're going to do what we tell you to. But when the government starts making a list of people who object to something due to religious grounds, we might have bigger problems here. From the New York Post. Firefighters sue over rigged FDNY vaccine exemption process. From Priscilla DeGregory. A handful of FDNY fighters are still waging war against the Big Apple's COVID-19 vaccine mandate, claiming in a new lawsuit that the exemption process is rigged after only 3 of the 1,700 applicants were excused from getting the jab. Uniformed Firefighters Association President Andrew Ansborough and 3 other smoke eaters say the mandate is requiring all city workers to be vaccinated puts firefighters in the untenable and offensive position of having to choose between violating their religious beliefs or keeping their jobs, according to their Manhattan Supreme Court lawsuit seeking an injunction. Former Mayor Bill de Blasio announced October 20th that all city employees should have to get their first vaccine shot by October 29th or they'd be placed on unpaid leave beginning November 1st. The suit filed Friday claims that workers were not told by the FDNY how to go about applying for religious or medical exemptions from the jab and were given an unreasonably short deadline to file for an exemption. Nevertheless, approximately 1,700 firefighters filed for religious or medical accommodations, of which only 3 have been granted to date, the court papers said. The suit claims the denials have largely been issued without any explanation, and those who've already been placed on unpaid leave must continue to go without salary while they attempt to appeal the decision. The suit seeks to halt the evaluation of the exemptions until the city and the FDNY begin employing cooperative dialogue on each case and start to provide reasons for their denials. So, and yeah, the government wanting to make sure everybody gets this fucking thing, whether it be for a malicious purpose or whether it just be for money, which I'm more on the money side of this. I think that's a big part of the reason is that it must be the money, as they say. Of course they don't want people to file for a religious exemption because that means that that's fewer doses that the government can purchase and thus far put money back into the hands of Big Pharma. From Yahoo News, via the LA Times, letters to the editor, unvaccinated soldiers are leaving the military. Good. This is an op-ed from the LA Times. To the editor, there are at least a couple problems with the logic used by those in the military refusing the pinko pox jab. I find it hard to understand why men are worried that the shots were too new for their risks to be fully understood. It's a tough argument to make when roughly 9.37 billion doses have been given worldwide. Add the fact that those who volunteer for military service do so knowing they could be deployed where bullets and bombs are being aimed at them on a daily basis. Is that not a high risk? Also add the unknown long-term health effects of being infected with the pinko pox and all the variants that are rapidly spreading worldwide. I guess it may be a good thing that those thousands defying orders to get jabs are leaving the military service. Part of their job is to obey orders and have at least some understanding of the true risk to oneself and others they serve with. To the editor, how very sad that the obviously hardworking, intelligent women at West Point are willing to throw their future careers away by refusing to follow an order for the good of their fellow cadets as well as society in general. Yeah, that's some pretty socialistic language right there. On the other hand, if witnessing the success of the vaccine and protecting people from severe illness and death over the past year has failed to sway them, are you fucking serious right now? Perhaps it's best that they do not become officers in the military given their unwillingness to follow orders and recognize scientific evidence. Maybe their real reasons for leaving are, as one former cadet stated, when I got there it didn't turn out like I thought it would be or like I had planned. And this is the thing with the military, like I said, off the top of it. You have, at the point that you enlist in the military, and I don't agree with this either, by the way. I think this is bullshit for the government to do. But you have agreed to use your body, for the government to use your body for whatever means that they want, for the extent of your contract. And I think it's what, 3-year contract that you have to sign to go back into it? 3 or 4 years is what it is usually. So for your enlistment, for your contract, you are the property of the government, and they can stick you with whatever jab they want, and you don't know what's in it. They don't tell you what's in it half the time. So with this one, you might be screwed on it, honestly. I don't like it, but I don't like them doing it with any other vaccine either. But you did sign the contract for this, so there is that. But just this snarky self-righteousness and the outright lies of the fact that this has somehow prevented people from getting this disease, which it hasn't. I would love to see if these people who are writing the letters to the editors will step out from behind their keyboards and go enlist. Show these kids how it's done. You know so well. To you, who wrote the letter to the editor here, Greg Starzak of Santa Barbara, go enlist. Show them how it's done. And Morgan, they allow women in the military. Go show them how it's done. What a ridiculous statement. Instagram is going to go down because my battery is dying in my phone. But that's what we see coming from that. All right. Disclose.tv got one here, and we'll be talking about that from a CNN article. 80 fact-checking organizations worldwide accuse YouTube of aiding disinformation. In an open letter, they demand a structured collaboration to superimpose their counter-content on videos to provide content. They want more censorship. The cat's out of the bag, and everyone figured out that they can buy a webcam and a microphone, and they can't control the narrative anymore. From CNN Business, more than 80 fact-checking organizations call out YouTube's insufficient response to misinformation. From Claire Duffy. A group of more than 80 fact-checking organizations from around the world has called YouTube one of the major conduits of an online disinformation and misinformation worldwide, and wants the platform to do more to address the problem. In an open letter to YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki, published on Wednesday, the group said the platform's current measures to combat misinformation are providing insufficient and laid out a series of recommended steps to improve its approach, including providing more context and debunks, as well as reducing the ability for spreaders of misinformation to monetize their content on the platform. Well, if you're trying to monetize on YouTube, stop that. Get rid of that. The letter comes amid ongoing concerns about online misinformation, especially related to elections and health claims. YouTube, however, has generally faced less scrutiny than fellow tech giant Facebook, now a division of parent company Meta, which received a similar letter in November of 2016. YouTube is allowing its platform to be weaponized by unscrupulous actors to manipulate and exploit others and to organize and fundraise themselves. The letter reads, "We urge you to take effective action against disinformation and misinformation, and to elaborate a roadmap of policy and product interventions to improve the information ecosystem," which means what we tell you is right, "and to do so with the world's independent, nonpartisan fact-checking organizations." Like PolitiFact, huh? Meta, Twitter, and YouTube have all partnered with fact checkers in some capacity over the years. Meta's effort, named International Fact-Checking Network, is generally considered the most robust as it relies on 80 fact-checking organizations across 60 languages. Globally, YouTube, for its part, says it collaborates with hundreds of publishers to direct users in several countries to authoritative information in a fact-check panel. Look, here's the reality. They're already doing this, but people like me can get some of my information out off of this by word of mouth, by sharing out the YouTube link to everybody else. And that's what they're pissed off about. You will never, you can go into the search bar and type in contemporary number 488. What did I even title this stream? I don't even remember anymore. Yeah, you can type in directly, verbatim, contemporary number 488. We investigated ourselves and found that we did nothing wrong. And this video will show up on the 5th page behind walls of priority content. CNN, NBC, The Hill, The Washington Post. You won't find this unless you are specifically looking for this and if you're willing to go through 5 pages of stuff. So they're already doing this, but the fact of the matter is like I said, these people are pissed. The people who are writing this letter are pissed that I can still put the open link out on Twitter and get a couple of views coming on off Twitter, even though most of you moved to other platforms, DLive and Twitch especially. Thank you for that. Especially the Twitch people. That's what pisses these people off. So, that's what we see off of that. And at the end, the last one we'll do before we do something I'm thankful for, a tweet from George Takei. Oh my! What do you think, folks? Howard Stern 2024? What do you think, folks? Let's listen to Howard Stern.
I think I'm going to have to do my civic duty and run for president.
I didn't know there was no narration of this. Let's go back to the beginning and get the narration.
I think I'm going to have to do my civic duty and run for president.
Famed shock jock Howard Stern floated the idea of running against former President Donald Trump in the event that he runs again in 2024.
My comments about Aaron Rodgers were like big news that I think I'm going to run for president. I think I'm running the country.
I keep quoting you about everything.
I know.
If Trump decides to run again, you have to run against him. That's my plan.
I'll beat his ass. I told Beth, I said, I think I'm going to have to do my civic duty and run for president against Trump.
You should say, honey, get ready to be first lady.
But what would Stern's winning strategy be? He says he'll just play the audio clip of Trump trying to fix the election in Georgia over and over again. You remember the one.
I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state.
So a clip that's taken completely out of context. And by the way, I have the original video downloaded because I knew that it would get wiped from the internet. I have the full 30-minute call downloaded. It's on my laptop. I got to go find where it is, but I have that full video. But he's going to take that one little clip out of context and use that as a strategy.
There's no way I'd lose.
What do you think, Stern 2024? Ron Helton asks, Stern is a dumbass. Who would vote for that fool? Dude, you have no idea how brainwashed the leftoids are. And they think they're still being edgy, even though they're being the censorship monkeys right now. They think that they're still edgy and countercultural right now, and that they have to have Stern as their leader. I guarantee you they would vote for Howard Stern in a second if he ran. I know he would win if he ran. I don't know if he would win, but I know that he would get votes from the leftoids. I know for a fact that he would get leftoid votes off of this because they still think they're the edgelords. Like the guy that was in here earlier on, who wanted me to stop what I was doing to go address his needs and then pointed himself to be a raging fucking leftoid. If people like that will vote for Stern because they're brainwashed too. Just like the people like that are pissed off that they can't derail a conversation to try to get somebody to say something racist. That's what he wanted to do too. He wanted me to stop what I was saying, stop reading the news, and he wanted to bait me into having a racist debate with him. And then he got all pissy when I wouldn't stop what I was doing and pay attention to him. All right. Let's head out of here. But before we do that, it is Wednesday. It is time for something that I'm thankful for, something that restores my faith in humanity. And, well, there's not a lot for me to go on right now because I'm climbing the walls here. Which is weird because... Actually, it's not weird because even when I'm off for a while, I still get up and go out and do things. I used Instacart for the first time yesterday because I was running out of eggs, and well, I had to bring my order up to $10. Otherwise, they wouldn't let me go to checkout. So I got a couple other things too to go along with that. But yeah, we're sitting in a situation here. I'm stuck. I got the coof. It's mostly cleared up. I got a little bit of irritation in my nose yet. Just a little bit in my nose yet. Fever's all gone, thankfully. That was the worst part of it, was just the intermittent chills that I was getting left and right throughout the day. But a lot of people also come up to check on me too, just to make sure I was going. I got a text from Quest Fanning. I don't know if it was because I started late or because of the tweet that I put out, but asking me if I was okay, which thank you guys for your patience with me yesterday off of that. I did not anticipate I was going to roll, and I set the show up except for sorting it the night before I went to bed. And I woke up the next morning like, okay, it's 7. I've got everything set up so we can be ready to go by 7:30. I just have to organize it. Rolled over and just felt the blood spill out of my nose. So thank you guys for being patient with me for that. But yeah, just for everybody who's been checking on me, the HR ladies checked on me to make sure everything was going good. I got to call the boss and let him know that she gave me one more day than we thought it was going to be, because I thought it was just going to be 5 days. She's making me go 10 now, which is lame. 10 days inside 4 walls. Well, this place is going to be spotless by the end of the day, I can tell you that. But I am thankful for the fact that people have come back to check on me, make sure everything's doing okay, make sure everything is fine. I am fine right now. I am not having any real big symptoms off of this, so that's good. That's something else I'm thankful for, is that I'm not really symptomatic here. I didn't even have to get the jab to be asymptomatic, but everybody should go and get the jab anyway because it's safe and effective, and Susan, don't ban me. But with that, I think we're going to be done. I think we're going to head out of here. Thank you, everybody, again, for coming and checking on me, coming and hanging out with me in the morning here. Let's throw the outro music up and let's get out of here for the day. So, thank you, everybody who came by and hung out and chatted in the live chat here. Everybody who came and played with the little leftoid who thought he was going to derail my show and catch me saying something racist. Yeah, that was funny. Good try, absolutely. But yeah, thank you everybody who came by and hung out with that and played with the troll and let him go and run off his rant. I don't know if he did Arvold actually ban him, or was this did he just leave on his own volition? I don't know. But regardless, thanks to everybody who came by. We'll be back here tomorrow morning with more contemporary, more news headlines. We'll probably talk about more vaccine mandate stuff and more voting rights stuff and more filibuster stuff and an whole litany of other things that are going along with this as well. So we will see you then. We will come and hang out tomorrow morning for more contemporary. And until then, I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.